Hi, I'm Joe Verity, and I'm here to tell you about this mural that I painted depicting life in southeastern Pennsylvania during the Paleozoic era. Paleozoic era covers approximately 550 million years ago to approximately 250 million years ago. Before that time, though, there was the Precambrian. The Precambrian era is approximately 90% of the time on Earth. Earth was formed approximately 4.5 billion years ago. And for the first half a billion years, nothing really happened. It was too hot. And as the planet cooled, somehow life showed up approximately 4 billion years ago. We have a couple different theories about how it may have arrived here. One is panspermia, the idea that life arrived here on comets, which also may have brought water from other places in the galaxy. It could have also started by amino acids and organic molecules in a primordial goo that perhaps was excited by lightning, started like Frankenstein wiggling around, and that may have started life. We really don't know how life started, but what we do know is that during the Precambrian era, which again starts from about 4 billion years ago and runs to about 550, precisely 541 million years ago, but we can round that to just 550 million years ago. During that time, life was microscopic. We basically had two types of life. We had prokaryote life and eukaryote life. Prokaryote life became bacteria, it's single-celled organisms. And then the eukaryote life became fungi and animals and plants, all of the multicellular organisms that we know today. Some of the oldest fossils that we have are stromatolites. Stromatolites were formed by blue-green algae that just kept growing and collecting sediments in its cells, and then as it died, those sediments collected into weird ball-shaped forms called stromatolites. They're still formed today, but some of the oldest fossils we have are those. Now, approximately 450 million years ago, there was a time called the Cambrian. It's actually often referred to as the Cambrian explosion. It's a time when life on Earth just kind of, boom, all of a sudden exploded in all sorts of different forms. You can see here that we have Dickinsonia. It's a large, possibly single-celled organism. We've got the first chordites, the first animals that had the beginnings of what would become spines and backbones. We had jellyfish, a form that was so successful, it's still around today. It's not the same exact jellyfish, but it's similar. Then we had animals that did not survive. We have animals such as this little guy had some grippers in the front here, and he swam around grabbing things and munching them down. We had a five-eyed guy here who swam around. He had a little trunk with a hand on the end. We had trilobites. These guys actually lived all the way up to the end of the Paleozoic era. Talking about the Paleozoic era, it's divided into 6 different periods, the first of which is the Cambrian that we're talking about now. And then it moves to the Ordovician, the Silurian, the Devonian, and then the Carboniferous, which is going to be around the corner as the mural's extended. But let's talk about this part when Phoenixville was part of a tropical sea. We were at the equator, so the water was warm. We were just off the coast, so it was shallow. And so you picture the tropical reefs that we see today. Well, for millions and millions of years, the fossil record tells us that that's what Phoenixville was like. Now, periodically, bad things would happen on Earth. Either an asteroid would hit or a volcano would go off. And when those things would happen, there'd be a mass extinction. Maybe it was an ice age. And when those things happen, and one did approximately 485 million years ago, a lot of these life forms died off. And then new life forms took the same ecological niches, one of which is cephalopods. We see the rise of the squids and the nautili. We have here a giant cephalopod, had a head approximately 8 feet long and a shell that was approximately 30 feet long. It would have extended all the way up to the ceiling above you. In the Ordovician, we also see trilobites. This is a lace-collared trilobite. Fossils of these are found right here in Pennsylvania. In fact, Most of the organisms that you see here represented were found in Pennsylvania. Now, some were not. Some of these fossils were found in other places, but we can assume that not all fossils found in Phoenixville are going to represent all the animals. So some of these animals may have existed here. They may have lived nearby in nearby oceans, but we know that they did exist because I did 25 hours worth of research to make the mural as accurate as possible. After another extinction, we have the Silurian, the rise of the sea scorpions. We have this guy who was about 2.5 feet long, but he was dwarfed by this giant sea scorpion over here who was approximately 6 feet long. And you could imagine this guy swimming around with his pincers. He did not have a stinger on his tail like a scorpion we know today, but because he had the claws in the front, we call those sea scorpions. We have up here the nautili. This form, shape, even the pattern on the shell seems to be almost the same as it is today. If it's not the same organism, it's convergent evolution, a new organism that arose and then filled the same gap and found the same evolutionary traits to be advantageous. And then we have the Devonian, the rise of the fish. Now we had the first jawless fish showing up by the end of the Ordovician, but by the time the Devonian comes around, fish really come into their own. We've got this giant Dunkleosteus up here. He was a 30-foot long predator. He had a big bony head. He would have been very difficult to defeat if that guy was coming after you. We even see one here eating one of those 6-foot sea scorpions. We also see the trilobites. They're still surviving, and they'll survive all the way up and around the corner, but that is a good summary of the mural representing life in southeastern Pennsylvania during the Paleozoic era. While the mural represents that 400 million years of time when Phoenixville was underwater, part of a marine environment, things started to change. Approximately 300 million years ago, this place dried out. It became swampy. It became coastland. And during that time, we had the coal beds form in Pennsylvania. Actually, we have whole periods named. The Pennsylvanian period is named for those coal beds in Pennsylvania. And up here we have some of the famous St. Clair ferns. St. Clair is approximately 60 miles north of us. And in the swamps there, and the same swamps would have existed here, in those swamps, lots of ferns grew, and as they fell into the water and were covered with sediments, they were preserved. And these are world famous because they made a white imprint on a black shale, and it's just very stark. You don't see that very often or almost anywhere else in the world. So the world famous St. Clair ferns from right around here. Now, following the Carboniferous period, we get into the Permian and the Triassic. This is the rise of the dinosaurs, and we had dinosaurs right here. We don't really know what they were because we don't have the bones of the dinosaurs. What we have here are the tracks. The trackways that we found represented a 3-toed theropod dinosaur, much like Coelophysis, or even if you think of a velociraptor that you may have seen in Jurassic Park. So here are some prints that my father collected in Douglasville. I was with him when he did, and you can see that it has 3 toes. So this animal was walking on the tips of its toes. Digitine animal, I believe they call this, opposed to plantar. We walk on the bottom of our foot, whereas most animals lift that heel way up and walk on the tips of their toes, kind of like a deer. Well, that's what this did as well. And you can see triangular claw marks at the ends of each one of these toes. Now, these are 2 overlapping prints right here. You can see on the key, some are lighter, some are darker. These animals were walking across a mud plain, and they were sometimes stepping in each other's tracks. This particular piece happens to represent a whole series of tracks. They're jumbled up so much that the more you look, the more you see. I put a map of them, a key down here at the bottom, so you can kind of figure out where they are. But one particular track right here stands out very clearly. It's oriented to the front with the toes up. You can see 2 of the 3 toes very clearly with the claw mark, and the third would have run off here to the break. Now this animal, which we call a growliter, because we don't have the bones, all we have are the tracks. So growliter is a general term to describe this coelophysis-like animal that would have run around. It was carnivorous. It was stood approximately 4 feet tall and was approximately 6 feet long. So you could picture these big guys running around eating, well, just about anything that they could catch. And so we found their prints. Doesn't mean they were the only dinosaurs. In New Jersey, we found prints from much larger theropods, more like a Tyrannosaurus rex. So those animals likely were here as well. It's just that we haven't found the prints here.